Hey Paul, thanks for your response. You're right on target as far as what I was trying to convey about personalities arising only because of the relationships they have with one another. Um, and what I was really doing was using, the human being or, each of us and our actual experience as an analogy to understand um, a more abstract principle, which is that objects themselves, whether persons, human beings, or flowers and trees, or any other animal, um, subatomic particles, any object in general, is always arising with a particular kind of subject. And different objects are related to different subjects or different modes of objectivity are related to different modes of subjectivity, um, and they never exist outside of this relationship. So when we watch the sunset, um, the colors which are produced and the geometrical relationships that exist between the various bodies are all subject to our perspective. Change your perspective, not only the place that you are, but the speed at which you travel. And that sunset is going to be different. Uh, and this is relativity theory. This is physics. Quantum physics tells you something similar. That basically that the measuring device and the thing measured um, arise together, and you will learn um, different things about the most fundamental level of reality, depending on how you choose to investigate it, because the questions you ask have already predetermined the types of answers that you can get back. You pay attention to one factor and of necessity ignore others. So whatever we focus in on, um, we end up losing information about everything else. And we can never gain knowledge unless we focus in, scientific knowledge. So we can't avoid changing what we try to know. And this is why science has been um, so influential over the past few hundred years, because we've been able to alter the natural world technologically. We don't, I mean, we do have a certain degree of knowledge about it that we didn't have 500 years ago. For example, we know um, that the stars in the sky aren't embedded in a fixed sphere, that in fact they are other worlds, other galaxies, other solar systems, and that of course the Earth is round, is a planet orbiting a sun in one of these solar systems. We didn't know this until very recently, or at least it wasn't public knowledge until very recently. And this has changed the way we think of human experience, because from our perspective, from the human point of view, it looks like the sun rises and sets, but from the scientific point of view, really the Earth is rotating. And this sort of forces us to have this bifurcation in our understanding of reality, because on the one hand we want to trust our senses, but on the other hand we have this intellectual understanding that in fact our senses are wrong, that the Earth is spinning and there is no sunrise, no sunset. Um, and so the modern problem is, how do you get these two to coincide? And there have been many attempts at a solution to this, and I think the only genuine solution is really a dissolution. It's an unasking of the original question, which posited a separation between experience and reality. See, as we express ourselves as human beings in the world, we come to gain a deeper and deeper understanding of that world. And so the mathematical measurements which we took, which Copernicus and Galileo and Newton made of the sky were and of terrestrial events were a kind of perceptual experience of a deeper layer of reality. So it's still happening in our experience, and we don't have to fracture the rational mind from sensory perception. We can see that they've always been deeply related, and they always will be. And so when we gain a deeper, what we would call objective understanding of the real relationship between the Earth and the Sun, all we've done is felt deeper into our already present experience. So there's no contradiction. It's just visually, it looks like the sun rises and sets, but our intuitive sense, once we've had a chance to really ponder this question, and it took human beings thousands of years to realize this, eventually we come to feel deep enough to recognize that our eyes don't give us a complete picture. But all of this process is a single loop. There isn't a subjective realm, human consciousness, and an objective realm, nature. Each of these are abstractions, because really the human subject is one particular way that the universe has of subjecting itself to itself as an object. There are many other types of conscious beings, or at least aware and experiential beings, emotional beings, beings which enjoy experience and value certain things. There are many other types than just humans. And so what we call the objective natural world isn't simply a bunch of objects mechanically being into one another that we can measure from the outside. They are a community of other beings with which we are always in relationship. And so, our actions, our attempt to understand and know them, is really our attempt to communicate with them. And we have to listen in response if we want to avoid a disastrous miscommunication. So, I think what happened, Paul, I used your video response as an opportunity to continue to discuss what I was discussing with Mr. Cropper. But I really appreciate your response, and I think the way you described it was getting deeper into exactly what I was saying, that each of us is always creating each other. And what does that mean, really? Well, does it mean there is no self? Well, I think on one level that's exactly what it means. There's no ego, at least no individual ego, which is separate from all the other egos and makes its own decisions, entirely absent the influence of others. But there is something I would wager that is aware of the fact that the ego, or that our personality, is sort of determined by our relationships. There is that which knows this fact that the personality is determined, and that's a deeper kind of awareness that I think isn't really individual anymore. It's not mine, it's not yours. When you're aware of your personality and not just acting through your personality, which is difficult, especially when you're directly interacting with others, because you always got to deal with not only your own personality but all these other personalities, and it can be a very confusing situation if you want to recognize this other awareness higher than the individual ego. It could also be easier if you're in the right company. It all depends, though. So yeah, thanks for your response, and I'm glad you're liking my videos, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Take it easy.